It's a sunny morning at Hockenheim as we get set for qualifying for Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS Endurance Cup. The 10th venue to host an Endurance Cup round is Hockenheim. It's the first time the championship has been here. And this time yesterday we were braced for appalling weather. It was very heavy rain for free practice. The weather got better during the day. But today we're pretty much back to what we had on Friday with bright sunshine, warmer temperatures and an opportunity now for the grid for this afternoon's race to be established across the three parts of qualifying as normal. Gemma Scott in the pits, David Anderson and John Watson trackside looking down at the championship leader's car, 88 Mercedes, Raffaele Marciello to go first in qualifying. And as ever, Watty, that has got to be a candidate for pole.
Well, indeed, it was very impressive. Raffaele Marciello was yesterday dominant, and 1 minute 37.643 was his best time. But what I think is more impressive is, in fact, the top 34 cars out of the 49 here covered by just under 1 second. And the 49th car is only 1.7 seconds slower than the 88 Mercedes AMG GT3.
Well, in the dry yesterday of pre-qualifying, yesterday afternoon, it was Raffaele Marciello who was the fastest in the 88 Mercedes, leads the championship, but the team that's doing the chasing, the yellow Ferrari, you can just see in the background there, James Collado ready to go in 51, but 71, the Davide Rigon, Daniel Serra, Antonio Fuoco Ferrari, second in the championship. They are 11 points back. They need big points here, but the Ferrari seemed to be a bit breathless yesterday.
Strange, because James Collado, well, that car, this 51 Ferrari, was only 16th quickest. Sister car was 19th quickest, so well off the pace. At a racetrack, I thought, before we came here, would certainly suit the qualities that the Ferrari has, but we haven't yet to see that time.
So, green flag waved at the end of the pit lane. Remember that it is going to be 3 elements to qualifying as normal, 3 times 15 minutes, and it is going to be different drivers per session, and then you take that combined average for the grid. So we'll be talking about the times within the 15-minute element, but also what that does to the aggregated grid. As a car that was really rapid yesterday with Adam Matecki and Benjamin Lecen at the wheel of it, the Boutsen Audi, Boutsen Gignon Racing Audi goes out now, and that car is going to be driven by Karim Auger in the first stint of qualifying. Number 50 BMW Max Hesse in the junior team car. That is getting set to go. And 15 minutes around here doesn't give you a huge amount of time. The Hockenheim lap is 4.5 kilometers. Number 46 Audi venturing out, and that is going to have Fred Verviche at the wheel. We've not actually seen very much of Fred behind the wheel this weekend. Nico Müller and Valentino Rossi have largely done the driving duties, but Fred Verviche to do Q1, and again, that's going to be a car to watch.
Now, I think the key will, as ever, with 49 cars on a 4.5 kilometer lap, is just where do you find that breathing space to get that one opportunity, the one clear lap, and that will make the difference between starting at the front of the field and finding yourself enmeshed in the midfield battle. Anything beyond maybe row 4, maybe outside row 5, you're going to be in a battle of cars either ahead of you, alongside you, or behind you. Whichever way, it's going to be a difficult afternoon.
Number 2, Mauro Engel, and he is on a flying lap as the cars then make the run onto the exit of the Spitzkehre. So this is from the tight hairpin. This is into the stadium. This is turn 16, double apex right. James Collado heading up towards the timing line. And of course, quite often you anticipate the times to be set in Q3 because that's when the cars are lighter. You don't refuel, so as the cars go through qualifying, they get lighter and lighter and therefore quicker and quicker. You therefore should keep your faster driver right to the very end. But now that it's an average, does it really matter quite so much? Mauro Engel's lap is yet to be revealed. He's onto a flying lap now. But James Collado hustling on as he comes up towards the end of the first sector.
Yeah, so I've got the Iron Dames directly behind. I mean, again, Ferraris, we know how quick they are. We know how quick James Collado is. We likewise the 71, the sister car, the yellow Iron Lynx Ferrari, so down into the braking zone. But look, there's nothing between those two cars, the 51 and the Iron Dames behind. So certainly they, well, he's either backed off or he feels that the tire temperature still isn't quite up to the level he wants. So a little bit of weaving around this lap's not going to be particularly significant, I suspect, for the 51 Ferrari.
Now, there are going to be 1 or 2 grid penalties. The number 163 Lamborghini He's going to have a 3-place grid drop. Marcus Pavra didn't slow under yellow flags. Loris Cabiru for the AGS Events Lamborghini team, he will get a 5-place grid drop for not respecting a red light at the end of the pit lane. And Al-Faisal Al-Zubar's treble 7 Mercedes and Arnold Robin's Audi, 5 grid place drop each because of an accumulation of these behavioural warning points, the BWPs. So a number of penalties to be factored into whatever we have as the qualifying order. And having said that, Loris Cabiru for number 8 Lamborghini has a grid drop for going through a red light. That car has just been reported to the stewards for speeding in the pit lane.
Very early in the morning to be speeding in the pit lane, but the fines are always the same and a bit careless now. We know sometimes that the speed limit 49.9 kilometers for the maximum 50. So if you set your speed limit very, very finely, maybe you just get caught out.
So Dries van Toor fastest then as he comes across the timing line, 1:38.080 now for Dries van Toor ahead of Ollie Milroy. Not quite as quick as they were doing yesterday in the pre-qualifying session, but they might get to that come Q3. We had a time out of Marciello yet. We've not. Mauro Engel here. I don't think he's going to go top necessarily, but it's a good-looking lap nonetheless to bring the number 2 AMG team Get Speed Mercedes AMG back into the reckoning. 8th fastest Mauro Engel goes through, the car that he shares with Lukas Stoltz and Stein Scott-Hals. There's Marciello.
And he looks like the body language of his 88 Mercedes AMG GT3 looks more lively than that we saw from Mauro Engel a minute or a second or two ago. So coming up to the conclusion of this double right-hand corner, turns 15 and 16, the Sud curve, and runs wide and tries to make that constant arc from entry to exit. Runs very wide on the exit, but keeps the car within relative track limits. So this should see Marciello only 5th. Well, and that's going to be a little bit of a disappointment. 1:38.2 against his best time yesterday, 1:37.6.
So the cars then on 9 more minutes of this session to go. And we've now got Klaus Bachler's Porsche going to the very top. 1:37.940 now from Christopher Mies in the number 25 Audi. So you've got Porsche, Audi. Dries van Toor put back to 3rd in the times now.
But this is the conclusion of Van Toor's lap, so he's only got a couple hundred meters to go before he comes across. Start-finish line should go quickest, and he does. 1:37.625. First time anybody's eclipsed the lap set yesterday by Marciello. So maybe the 32 Audi is back at the races.
Let's see, he's quicker by 0.3 of a second, which is a good margin. On board then now, up towards turn 2, down through the gears goes Van Toor. We've still got a number that haven't yet done a lap time, but as they come, sorry, number 46 Audi, I should say. This is the Fred Verviche car as he comes into the Parabolica. There, number 71 Ferrari, that is Alessio Rivera.
At least he's got a space between the cars directly ahead of him, nobody following him. So that will allow Rivera, and we got middle sector fastest overall time, and hopefully for him that is, he will have a clear run to the start finish line, and looks like he's got enough space, no interference, no aerodynamic wash coming off the cars directly ahead of him that's going to have a bearing. So runs wide and turns 15, 16, but probably will get away with that. And now will Ferrari jump to the top of the timings?
Yeah, Rivera in for Daniel Serra, so Serra can't win the championship now. He's going to miss a round at least, and Rivera goes second, only 34 thousandths down on Van Toor. That was a really good effort.
I think it just maybe illustrates what people were doing, and that pre-qualifying session yesterday afternoon was about maybe the race, not simply looking at a qualifying time. They do have to look at a qualifying run, but now we've seen more of a genuine pace from that 71 Ferrari than we had seen certainly in Saturday's running.
And a big spin in the background, 2 cars involved. One is the Sky Tempesta Mercedes, getting it wrong with the Spitzkehrer, but there looked to be a McLaren involved in all of that as well. Eddie Cheever was in the Mercedes, or is in the Mercedes, but the yellow flag in Sector 2, as I say, it's all kicked off on the Spitzkehrer. As away goes Cheever, he rejoins, but looked as though it might have been one of the JP Motorsport McLarens involved as well. Out wide there bounces Jack Aitken over the curb in the Emil Frey Lamborghini. He was really impressive yesterday, though.
Certainly was, and I think he might have been slightly compromised by the events done at the end of the circuit down at turn 6. So, and there's a problem with the tyre rub on, was that contact that arguably spun the 93 Sky Tempesta Mercedes AMG GT3. But watch for Jack Aitken coming up now to finish his flying lap, currently in 12th position. Goes across start-finish line and appears to be 5th.
Yeah, a 37.9, good effort that. Fred Verviche has gone 3rd, Backler down to 4th, Jack Aitken up to 5th, Raffaele Marciello is only 7th, but of course we're talking about what's going on in Q1. It's the combination, the average of the 3 times that each driver will set a time that will determine the grid. Max Hesse here, 17th at the start of the lap, he's about to break the beam, goes through, stays 17th, didn't improve.
And the sister Ferrari likewise went through but didn't see any improvement on time for them either. So we've got just 5.5 minutes of this first Q session. Raffaele Marciello, look at the traffic ahead of him. He's looking for a way through, which he manages to do. But it's a busy part of the racetrack. He's got enough clear space ahead of him. Personal best sector 1, so that's by 0.3 of a second. He needs to then find space and time here, coming up to the conclusion of sector 2.
Yeah, personal best in the first sector. Klaus Bachler is pushing on as well in the dynamic motorsport Porsche, the green Porsche behind. Down in the middle sector though is Marciello, so he's not yet getting the best out of the Mercedes. And it was number 112 McLaren, I was right, it was one of the JP cars that got involved with Eddie Cheever up at the Spitzkehrer, and that would have been Maciej Blazek at the wheel of it.
In the pit lane, my quick tyre change, I suspect, for Marciello. So get him in, get him out, and give him one flying lap to the checkered flag.
Try and manage the traffic just as they will in the race. Raffaele was saying yesterday how busy it can get around here. Although it's a relatively long lap, 4.5 kilometres, the nature of it seems to pocket cars together with the number of tight corners that there are. There through is number 54 Klaus Bachler, who is 4th fastest. Behind is the Rover Racing BMW. That's the Augusto Farfus car, 16th fastest. Number 12 here, Christopher Haase. He's just gone 7th fastest on his previous lap, but he's now up behind the Barwell Lamborghini as they sweep through the Sachs curve and Haase bails.
He's backed out of it. Yeah, it's just, again, the usual, you get 2/3 of the way through the lap, then you catch up to somebody in the Sachs curve. That's the tight bank left-hand corner. Wow, Christopher Haase turning a very, very wide exit to give himself the best possible exit out of turn 16 to get more speed down this short start, finish straight, and then into turn 1.
Now what about the Emil Frey Lamborghini? 63, Jack Aitken, 5th fastest, and another improvement within the first sector here.
So he again has been hanging around waiting for that sniff of clear air, runs just to the edge of the track coming in to the stadium, kicks up a little bit of gravel but didn't stop his progress. High, all the way around Sachs curve and drops to the right rear off the track again. So is he running out of grip, or is he just thinking of alternative ways to try and find the grip that maybe not the racing line's giving him?
Well, he's up towards the timing line, down in the middle sector, and breaks the beam. 5th at the start of the lap, goes through, stays 5th, a 38.4, no improvement for him. So Jack Aitken there or thereabouts. Remember, he's only 3/10 down on the pole position time.
Well, we know it was going to be close all the way through. Presently, we have got the top 25 covered by 1 second. We're almost double that number, not quite double that number of cars yesterday, so it's still highly competitive as we watch now. 2 minutes and 20 seconds remaining, and Marciello is, whereabouts is he in time? Well, he's down in 11th position, still in the pits, and he needs to get out pretty quickly if he wants to go out and get one more flying lap in, because he will just literally come across the line at the point when the checkered flag comes out. If he gets under 2 minutes, then it's going to be very tight indeed.
It is indeed. So Van Thor and Rivera are in the pits, the top 2. Back outlook is Eddie Cheever, so the damage to the Haupt Racing Team run Sky Tempesta branded Mercedes sorted out, and that car sent back into the session. Fred Verviche, 3rd fastest, is now pitted. So increasingly people getting out of the session ready to get the second driver in and prepared, ready for Q2. Pierre Giudone at WRT looks on, great racer as well as team principal himself. Now, if the road is getting clearer, that might just play into Marciello's hands, mightn't it?
Yeah, but he's still in the pits. So he's lost, he can't go out now. He's got 1 minute 20 remaining. So any thoughts or opportunities they were looking at, they've gone. The time's running out, and Marciello's still in the pit. So there the car is up on the jacks. He's out of the car, and that'll be a disappointing opening stint for the 88. So Raffaele Marciello could not match the time he achieved on Saturday afternoon. His 1 minute 38.1 was about half a second slower. Half a second sounds nothing, but in the scheme of things, it means he's gone from being quickest to being 11th quickest.
So, in the number 32 Audi camp, Dries van Thor talks to Charles Weerts, ready for the next stint. Calvin van der Linde there, sorry, not Charles Weerts. So Calvin van der Linde will go next by the look of it. Charles Weerts near the end of the session, which is an interesting way of rotating the drivers. So Augusto Farfus gets out of the road for BMW. The session Q1 is still live. We've only got 20 seconds, admittedly, but you see how, having done your time, many of the teams bring the cars in nice and early, then they can get the next driver in and settled.
Interesting little fact for those that want these sort of things. Audis occupy 6 of the top 10 places. We didn't see that yesterday.
No. No, indeed. This is true. There is Rob Bell's McLaren, which is 29th in Q1.
Bit further off the pace than one would have accepted. Christian Klein in the JP Motorsports, he was 15th. That was the quickest of the McLarens. Ollie Milroy was 20th. That's the second of the McLarens. So the Jota car down third of the McLarens, and there's a further 3 much further down the field in the sort of middle 30s to the middle 40s.
So Q2 is about 7 minutes away as the last couple of cars come to take the checkered flag in Q1. Rob Bell in the Jota McLaren. Jota having not been here before, bit of a learning curve. But Rob Bell and Marvin Kirchhoff are spearheading the driving force as ever. Rob, of course, an Endurance Cup champion a good few years ago for McLaren. He's been a loyal McLaren factory driver for many, many seasons now. Goes through and actually improved on that lap, so improvement at the very end. Yeah,
I want the position. Fred Ravish explaining to Valentino what's happening. Track conditions again. I mean, they're perfect track conditions right now, but they will be marginally different to how they were on Saturday afternoon in that pre-qualifying session. Come on, Fred, you get them pumped up. That's what we need.
So Valentino Rossi talks to Fred Ravish, and he's all smiles. There, number 20, the Mercedes that is in Pro-Am. That's the car of Ian Loggy, Valentin Pierberg and Dominic Baumann. Ian Loggy, of course, British GT Championship leader. He'll be back on duty next week with Jules Gounon as his teammate for Ram Racing. But Ian Loggy doing a huge amount of miles this year as the last few cars arrive in the pit lane. Right, let's hear from Dries van Thor, because he's fastest in Q1, only by 34 thousandths, but, however, he is with Gemma.
Dries, top of the timings for that particular session, but you don't seem too happy.
No, it was not the best. Well, I mean, did not feel amazing for me. Also, my lap was not great. But yeah, it looks like it's good enough. But yeah, I think hopefully Charles and Kelvin can still do a good job. It looks good for the moment, but it's still 2 sessions to go. So
absolutely, well done for that particular session.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, surprisingly downbeat, isn't he? But admittedly, that's 15 minutes of qualifying. We've got a 3-hour race yet to come. That's what matters.
Yeah, and I think his philosophy will be, if I could have been a couple of tenths quicker, that then gives us greater leeway for Kelvin van der Linde and Charles Weerts when they do their 15-minute qualifying session. So I think that was the thought behind Dries van Thor's comment. So if he could have been on a 37.4 or something like that, he would have been a much happier chap.
Well, at the end of Q1, Dries van Thor is the fastest by 34 thousandths from Alessio Rivera, and Fred Vervish third, going really well in the number 46 Audi. Klaus Bachler fourth. Fifth fastest, Jack Aitken, and then Christopher Meese ahead of Costa Lappalainen, with Christopher Haase eighth fastest. Ninth, Marcus Winkelhock in the top 10, rounded out by Rucci Tomita. Only 11th, Raffaele Marciello. Only 12th, Maro Engel ahead of Leo Russell, and then James Collado, with the top 15 rounded out by Christian Klein. 16th fastest in Q1. Another of the WRT Audis, this being number 30, the car of Jean-Baptiste Simonard, clear of Augusto Farfus and Marius Zug. Max Hesse was 19th and Ollie Milroy 20th from Casper Stevenson, and then Alex McDowell. Rahel Frey for the Iron Dames team, 23rd from Aurelien Panis and Marcus Pavrut, who, don't forget, will get a grid drop for that car. Stefano Constantini, 26th from Diego Menchaca. Then Rob Bell improving at the end ahead of Al-Faisal Al-Zubair. Another one with a grid drop looming over him, Janis Fitje, 30th. 31st, number 11, the second of the Trésor by Car Collection Audis, Thierry Vermeulen ahead of Brendan Leach, and then after his spin, Eddie Cheever. Michele Beretta, 34th from Ralph Bowen, Manuel Maldonado, Jeff Kingsley next, Florian Schultz at clear of Sean Walkinshaw and Alexander West. Giorgio Roder ahead of Hugo Delacour, then Alex Malikin, Maciej Blažič and Jens Liebhauser, 45th in the Winward Racing Mercedes. And we're not done yet, because it's a 49 strong entry this weekend, which means that 46th is the number 20 Mercedes. Ian Loggy doing the time, Karim Auger behind him, then Dominic Fishley and Nicolas Gomar rounding out those 49. And having done that, we're about 2.5 minutes away from our next green flag as the teams get themselves ready. And in the Gold Cup, there is the number 93 Sky Tempesta Mercedes that's had a pretty frustrating time this season.
Probably below expectations, but hopefully they can recover something back here this weekend. Eddie Cheever, so he was in the car for that opening stint. So let's look and see what happens coming down into turn 6. Where it is, attacked from behind.
Yeah.
Well, who was the culprit? We wait to see who that was. Well, we think it was one of the McLarens.
Yeah, it was 112 McLaren, Maciej Blažič.
There's getting his bodywork repaired.
Yeah, that's the evidence, isn't it?
And what a shame, that wonderful bit of body wrapping, the gold and black, is being somewhat disfigured by the gaffer tape going on to the left front of the bodywork to make sure that that stays reasonably in place. There is the impact. Oh, probably one might describe that as an avoidable incident. And that's probably being kind.
Yeah. Actually, looking at the amount of tank tape that's on it, that must have been quite a hit for the McLaren.
I think if you look at other cars in the paddock, I mean, for example, the way Porsche engineer their car, the bodywork on that is a very small number of bits and all readily detachable. So if they want to change a front splitter or a front part of the bodywork, they can do it very quickly. I'm not sure the McLaren has got that level of maybe sophistication or experience in terms of bits that are attached to bits to bits to bits. And that's always one of the areas, particularly where you've got carbon fiber. You need, and there is a Porsche, you can see there's about 5 principal parts in that car. Each part is detachable and can be taken off and replaced within a very short space of time. No need for the gaffer tape. As we have a look, there is the front latch on the left-hand side. The bottom, this whole sort of front section comes away as one. The headlight section comes away as one. I mean, just the engineering that goes into these cars, based on how many decades of Porsche racing, so they work it out how to make a car, particularly a customer turnkey car, that is as simple and easy to operate as you can get.
Kim Louis Schramm will go next for Attempto Racing. Like quite a number of drivers here, he's come out of the German single-seater ranks through the ADAC F4 Championship, number 38 McLaren. Ready to go as the green flag has been waved, incidentally, at the end of the pit lane. I've not seen a car go out yet, but the session is now live. Ollie Wilkinson for Jota, but rather proves, doesn't it, how people treat this. Go out for perhaps only one run now.
It'll be interesting to see, because obviously the fuel loads have come down marginally, so the car will be a little bit more effective acceleration, a little bit easier under brakes. Again, depending on the tire option teams have, whether they want to put on a new set of tires or put on the best of the rest. The thing I noticed in that first 15-minute call-off, there's a much bigger spread of times front to back than there was in yesterday's running. So there's 1.7 seconds covered 49 cars. Yesterday it was 2.9 seconds covered the same number of 49 cars. So whether it's because people are not so adept at going out and nailing it, again, track temperatures are slightly lower, ambience lower as well. Maybe the feel, and I mean, Dries van Thor said in an interview, he said off camera, not in the interview to Gemma Scott, but he was struggling with a little bit of understeer.
So away now have gone Brendan Aribe, Kelvin van der Linde, Miguel Molina, Sarah Bovy, Vincent Abril and Patrick Kropinski. The circuit is starting to tempt people out there, little by little. But totally calm, many of the drivers, just not even with the wheels on the cars yet, just biding their time, ready to be sent out. Very different start to this element of qualifying compared to Q1, isn't it? Where people went scampering out early doors.
It certainly looks to me like it's going to go out, look for a bit of clear racetrack, nail it for one. You know, this is going to be the best I could do timed a lap. Sarah Bovy and the Dames. Ferrari comes around and she, whereabouts? So she actually was about the 12th car out, but comes through now to go on to her first flying lap. As following, I think that was the 51. Aaron Link's sister car just ahead.
So others coming out of the pit lane. One thing to notice here is that white line that demarks the pit lane from the racetrack does go quite a long way up the straight. So with it being a Formula One circuit and accommodating other races, it has to be multi-purpose, but you're a long way up the straight before you can move back across, if you like, onto the racetrack proper. We're on board with Sarah Bovy heading to the hairpin.
So coming down through turn 5, which is really little more than a bit of stress on your wrists, then a big break down into turn 6. This is the most distant part of the racetrack, and it's just about slowing the car down, getting the nose of the car in, then picking up the throttle as early as possible, then pushing and driving this short straight up into turn 7, flat out, absolutely flat out, but traffic ahead, she's going to have to, wow! She had to get under the brakes, overran, maybe could have moved out a little bit earlier and found herself in clearer air, but that was a big loss of momentum for Sarah Bovy as she comes through turn 10 now. This is the final leg of what would have been the original circuit layout, and enters into the stadium and having to do a little bit of work behind the steering wheel. Again, traffic coming into play for her down into the Sachs curve. And I think this is at the sister 51, it might well be. And this is not going to be a lap that Sarah Bovy will think is going to be good enough to see an improvement, and it's the sister car that's really holding up the Aaron Dames car. So Sarah Bovy is going to be frustrated that this is not going to be a great lap for the Ferrari, the number 83 Ferrari Aaron Dames. But she goes quickest, believe it or not, on the 141.5. But I think one might say that's going to be overtaken very shortly. And this car is going to be one of those cars that's going to do it.
Absolutely. That's Vincent Abril's McLaren. Sarah Bovy's already been battered by Brendan Aribe. It was one of the early times, so that's why it was a good one, or looked good relative to everybody else. But now the order starts to be settled as the cars come through. Way out wide in the background bounces the Audi. Kelvin van der Linde then goes through 3/10 down on Abril.
Yeah, Abril's 137.7 is a good opening lap for the Monegasque driver, so he'll be happy enough with that. Got personal best in sector 2, and so overall best sector 2, but personal best in 1 and 3. But now, 10 minutes to go, it's starting to kick off.
It is, and the number 32 Audi, second in the session, but quickest so far on the average. So remember, we've got times being set within this 15-minute period, but the grid based on that aggregation, the combined times. So that's what we're going to be referring to as well as you look at Danny Juncadella, winner of the Fanatec GT Esports Pro Series race on site last night. And he needs to try and find the time that Raffaele Marciello could not find to get this car back up to the pointy end of the grid.
And for me, that is the big surprise so far of Q1, and going into Q2 as we go back to the 71 Ferrari. And again, just watching as Sarah Bovy goes through, there is the 88 coming into view now. Juncadella behind the wheel, personal best, but he needs a few purples in there as well to ensure that the car moves its way further up. His 5th quickest.
Over the line goes David Rigon, and the Ferrari then goes fastest within the combination of the times, but second in the session. So he's 5 thousandths down on Vincent Abril, but he's a 10th up for the grid if you follow all of this. So in Q2 second, the average is fastest.
Kelvin van der Linde has nailed it, so he will put his car back up to both the fastest overall and between the two sessions, leading that charge. Also great lap 137.480. That's more like it. That's the time Dries van Thor thought he was going to achieve.
So right now, Kelvin van der Linde, the fastest driver in the session, 137.8. This is the Patrick Niederhauser driven Santalok run Audi number 25. Looks quick, doesn't it, Niederhauser? Looking good in the first sector. So Patrick Niederhauser, with not too much traffic around him, comes then now down towards the Motordrome, the stadium. So past the Porsche Centre on the right-hand side, flicks into the stadium. This is turn 12, the entrance to the Motordrome. He's up the curb, a flash of the lights to warn the traffic ahead of his progress. 2 personal bests. Looks good, this, traffic allowing.
Traffic will no doubt have a bearing on this last sector for Patrick Niederhauser. Yeah, he might just about sneak over the line without too much interference. And for the first time in a short time, we've seen another purple sector time pop up, this time for Vincent de Bril in the 111 JP Motorsports McLaren. So Vincent de Bril currently third in this session, and that car is, I think it's actually Christian Klein behind the wheel. He was in the first session of Vincent de Bril. So that car currently, yes. So wait to see where this places the car in this qualifying session and overall in the scheme of things.
It was 4th in Q2, goes through now, and number 111 is to be found 7th on aggregate and still 4th in Q2. So 7 minutes of the session to go. Niederhauser went 2nd in Q2, and number 25 Audi 3rd on the grid provisionally.
Matteo Drudi, very exercised, trying to find a way around the Porsche. Under the Porsche, runs the curb on the inside, but the Porsche's got the advantage coming off, so Drudi literally bails out of it at the opportunity, and he had to, because the Porsche was going to sweep across the front, and that's the difference in lines in the Sachs curve. The high line gives you a better exit speed. The low line gives you better mid-corner speed.
So Danny Juncadella in the session is only 19th, and this car, on average, is only 13th, and he's down in the middle sector. Something fishy around this car this morning, like it's not woken up, it needs another espresso.
Well, but let's not take the fishy analogy too far, but certainly it's a very disappointing performance in relation to what we saw from this car team yesterday, when they were clearly the dominant operation. So Raffaele Marcello didn't have the session he wanted. Danny Juncadella, we wait to see where he will come across. The score is 13th in this session, and overall that stays 13th.
Yeah, it's just not unlocked the pace that they had yesterday. Number 63, Albert Costa. Now this car is 3rd in Q2, and it's 3rd on aggregate as well. So Albert Costa, we know, is very, very rapid.
Very exciting.
Sometimes he gets himself in a bit of strife, but the speed is undeniable as he comes then now down to the stadium. Just 5 minutes on the clock still as the cars go through that right-hander.
Just watching Costa here, I must say he looks as if he's applying a lot more constraint to his driving. He's not that exuberant, that flair that we see from him at times. Sometimes, you know, visually he is all over the place. This looks a much more controlled, and ultimately could be a good lap from the Spanish driver in the 63 Lamborghini.
And look at this McLaren. Nikolai Schiergaard has done an absolute best in the middle sector. Albert Costa was a little bit slower, in fact, when he went across the line. But Schiergaard is becoming the one to watch. This, number 159, Garage 59 McLaren, a personal and an absolute best. The car runs in the Silver Cup. Schiergaard is way out wide. That might get a little bit of attention from the stewards as he comes then out of turn 16 now, up towards the timing line. Where does the lap put him within Q2? Goes over the line, and he is 2nd fastest in Q2. He's only 48 thousandths down on van der Linde. That's a mega lap.
Let's see it. This might be Nico Muller, I'm assuming, behind the wheel of the 46. Didn't look like Valentino was going to get in, having had that little bit of coaching from his teammate Fred Vavish a few minutes ago. So Nico Muller, personal best, sector 1, personal best, sector 2. And they will be looking for a massive uplift in terms of where will this car be starting on the grid, because they're going to hand it over to Valentino. The car will be light. He hopefully might get a fresher set of rubber to give him the best opportunity to consolidate a lap time for probably the most popular, if you like, the car graphics the Valentino yellow and blue.
Over the line comes then Nico Müller, 5th in Q2. Good effort that, brings the car up the order, 5th on aggregate as you look at 911, Alfred Renauer at the wheel of the Porsche. The Renaurs, we know, are very, very rapid pedallers, the brothers, and Alfred Renauer, it is behind the wheel of the Precote car at the moment.
We haven't really seen an... Oh! We really saw the side of the car there as he went so wide between 15 and 16, and that was well and truly into the zone where you don't need to be. It's very rubbery, that far off, and that what might be called no man's land between turn 15 and turn 16.
We're getting quite a lot of reports of lap times being cancelled at turn 1, and amongst the drivers that have lost lap times, Danny Junqueira and also Albert Costa, who's now pitted. This is Tommaso Mosca, who was the runner-up and a class winner in the esports race last night. Did lead the first half of it, but worked his tyres too hard and dropped back behind his teammate Danny Junqueira. Again, he skips over the curb, but that's kind of the racing line at turn 16 now.
I mean, turn 1 always has had people running very wide on the exit, but every major corner here, people are running way, very wide. So it seems that turn 1 is the zone. Here we go, the exit of... Now, we're only seeing from the side, we're not getting a view from behind or ahead to see just how wide or off track a car may be, but if you're getting pinged at turn 1, you must have 4 wheels well and truly off the racing, or the racetrack, not the racing line, the racetrack.
This is Benjamin Lessen, number 10 Audi. The road is getting quite quiet again, in as much as more and more people are heading for the pit lane to get the cars ready for Q3. But here is Lessen down towards the stadium approach. You see how wide he goes, avoids the gravel, but not everybody has done that, and quite often you do see a car that just runs too wide through turn 12, and then that launches it across the grass, and it's quite a challenge to get it slowed down for the Sachs curve without coming across the grass and drilling anybody. It's only when cars go off the road you realise just how fast they're travelling.
So Lessen looks to be driving within limits, both his limits and the car's limits. Remains 45th, so this is a possibility of an improvement. So personal bests, first and second sector, 28th.
That was Arjun Minor, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, as Valentino Rossi will take over number 46, Antonio Fuoco will take over 71. The Iron Lynx drivers there, you can see, getting themselves ready. Arjun Minor fastest in the Gold Cup at the moment, as you look at 188. This is Miguel Ramos, who is 29th in the session, and the car is 35th on the grid.
Personal best again, sector 1. So most drivers on their second runs, or if they've stayed out towards the end of the session, there's only 45 seconds now remaining, seemingly finding track is beginning to give up more grip. Maybe the initial Q1 session, the track had still a little bit of that it was a heavy dew last night, and that could still sort of linger in the tarmac, but certainly the track looks to be picking up pace. Fastest lap of this session still with Kevin van der Linde, 137.4, followed by Schergar in the 159 Garage 59 McLaren.
It's good though, isn't it, to have the McLarens looking competitive today. There, Miguel Ramos comes through. They're not expecting an outright win for this car. A class victory is what they're hunting in Pro-Ams. Across the line he goes, and Miguel Ramos goes through, staying 29th in Q2. Number 19 Lamborghini with Arthur Rougier at the wheel of it comes into the stadium. Through the Sachs curve, this car currently 14th on the combined times, the average times.
Just a little bit nervy in the middle of turns 15, 16. So comes across the line, and Rougier will look for an improvement, 14th, so he gains 1 position.
Yeah, the Lamborghinis don't seem to have got the pace this weekend that others have. They've largely struggled. Number 2 Mercedes, Lucas Stolz, 3rd in Q2, and the car is 6th on average at the moment, 6th on the grid. As you look at the Porsche here of Alessio Rivera heading back to the pit lane, the Dynamic Motorsport Team's car. The Belgian driver who's done much of his racing out in Asia, but it's good to have him back in Europe, reminding people how competitive he is.
Well, let's tell you, I don't know how competitive you can get in a championship. This is the most competitive GT championship in the world. And you're talking about the Lamborghini. I mean, Albert Costa 4th quickest, and he's only a 10th and a fraction slower than the time set by Kelvin van der Linde, but I know that Costa will be disappointed that he's only 4th quickest.
So we get this 7-minute interval between Q2 and Q3. And Matteo Cairoli gets set to leap on board his Porsche. So right now for the grid, provisionally, number 32 Audi, Van Thoren van der Linde's times ahead of number 71 Ferrari, which is significant, bearing in mind that Rigon and Fuoco are fighting 88 for the championship, and number 88 is only 15th on the grid right now.
Yeah, that, I suspect, is not just a surprise to the pit lane, it's probably a bigger surprise to the team itself, because that is such a big difference. AMG team, Akodis ASP to give it its full title. And there's not very much they are going to be able to do to drag themselves further up the field, because when they put Jules Gounon behind, not Gounon, Jules Gounon. Gounon is a form of fried fish in breadcrumbs. So I was told by Jean-Marc Gounon, it is not Gounon.
So let's have a look at how we stand at the moment in terms of the classification within Q2. So this is the isolated last 15 minutes with Kelvin van der Linde faster than Nikolai Schiergaard and Lucas Stoltz 3rd. Albert Costa 4th from Patrick Niederhauser and Vincent Abril. Davide Rigon 7th ahead of Miguel Molina, and then Mattia Drudi. Top 10 rounded out by Benjamin Goethe. Then Max Wishofer from Nico Müller 12th. Arjun Maini's lap put him 13th from Benjamin Lessen. Ollie Wilkinson 15th. 16th, number 911, the Alfred Renard driven Porsche ahead of Lewis Proctor. Arthur Rougier 18th from Lorenzo Petresi, then Kim Louis Schramm. The Alex Malikin Ancient Guven Porsche 21st from Danny Juncadea, only 22nd in Q2. Axel Jeffries clear of Cesar Galzo. Nick Yellerly struggling, so to his teammate Neil Verhagen. Then it's Yuki Nemoto from Alessio Picariello, Miguel Ramos 29th, and Tommaso Mosca in 30th. So as far as the grid is concerned, as I say, number 32 Audi is ahead at the moment of 71 Ferrari. 3rd in the times, number 63 the Jack Aitken Albert Costa Lamborghini. 4th Christopher Mies Patrick Niederhauser's Audi, and Fred Vervisch Nico Müller are 5th. Confirmation of that order. So Charles Weert's yet to go, Antonio Fuoco yet to go, Mirko Bortolotti yet to go. Then Lucas Legere will get into number 25, and Valentino Rossi's car currently 5th. He'll take it over for Q3.
Well, no pressure then for Valentino, is there?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's going to be a really lively session. Let's look at the names that have yet to go. Luca Giotto, we know, is a live wire. Nicholas Nielsen, Dennis Lynn, Thomas Neubauer, Dennis Marshall, who was good in free practice, Matteo Cairoli, Giacomo Altway, and Jules Gounon. So they're all lined up, all ready to go. And we are 4 minutes and counting away. There's the rest of the grid. See, the Nikolai Schiergaard effort brought the car up to 16th in number 159, ahead of Nick Yellerly and Arnold Robin. Currently, that car 22nd in the times. He's got a grid drop because of behavioural warning points. So again, the order that we're talking about in terms of the combined times will be affected by these penalties that are being incurred either through indiscretions here or the totting up process of these behavioural warning points. So the teams are good to go. And there, number 99 Audi. This is the car of Alex Arca, Marius Zug and Nicholas Schürl. One of the two Attempto racing cars. Just to its right is number 8 Lamborghini, which we've seen Nicolas Gomar drive, and it is going to be Mike Parisi now for the 3rd part of qualifying. But Alex Arca ready to go out in number 99. The Attempto team, run by his father, Arkin Arca, and the car in, as it was at Spa, the SRO 30 years of GT racing livery, because it is 30 years since Stéphane Rattel organised his first GT race. So we've got the cars then set to rumble out of the pit lane, just 2.5 more minutes. And it's right now offering up a really jumbled grid. And if that 88 Mercedes can't do something, they've got a lion's share of work to do in the race itself, haven't they, to try and buy back the places.
Well, how are they going to be able to defend their championship lead? Because they're so far back. Okay, it's a 3-hour race. Lots of things can occur, but you don't need to be starting back on the possibly the 9th or even worse, 10th row of the grid.
Valentino Rossi set to go. As ever, there's a huge number of Valentino Rossi fans here that have been pouring in across the weekend. Even on Friday, when Valentino's car wasn't out on the circuit, they were all lined up outside his transporter in the paddock, waiting for autographs, waiting for a glimpse of the great man. And this has been something we've seen just about everywhere we've been this year.
Yes, they started in Mila in early, or back end of March, beginning of April. Stein showing us this is the number 2 Get Speed Mercedes. So that car currently overall, I think, is it 6th place?
Yeah. After the efforts of Luca Stolz and Maro Engel, Stein Scotthorst has adapted well to this car, former Audi driver and a race winner in the Audis, in fairness. This is the car that tops the times, and it's going to be Charles Weerts to go next. Calvin van der Linde, we've seen drive it, but he was a podium finisher yesterday evening in the Esports Pro Series race. Massive switches and dials and buttons to be used by the driver on instruction from the team. And of course, we'll talk more about this, no doubt, when we get to Barcelona, but this is now becoming the farewell tour for WRT as an Audi team.
Big story, and we're waiting for the future of WRT and what their plans are. I think they're probably well trailed throughout the paddock, but the formal announcement is yet to come. So they're going through this weekend, and then the final 2 sprint round in Valencia, which is always going to be good fun and exciting. A lovely city, great restaurants there, by the way. We might have to go out and enjoy one of those one night, David. And then the final endurance round in Barcelona.
Indeed so. So 2 Spanish circuits to round out the competitive season, talking about how competitive it is. On the average, so you've done 2 sessions, 26 cars with the combined times under a second. John mentioned that this is the most competitive GT3 championship in the world. Well, there's more evidence of it. So 26 cars on the combined times within a second. New Pirellis go on. Session is live, by the way. The lights have gone green at the end of the pit lane. We are good to go.
So I think the question for every team in the pit lane is, do we go early, or do you go in the middle, or do you go at the end? And whatever you choose to do, it's inevitable you're going to find the traffic either at the beginning of your lap or the conclusion of your lap, and it's 49 cars on a 4.5 kilometer circuit. Even though there's one good straight, the top speed, I think the highest top speed you saw yesterday was just fractionally under 280 clicks, which is pretty impressive. That's not far short of 180 miles an hour.
Absolutely so. Teams are ready there in the pit lane, and it is only the Lippert Lamborghini that's gone out so far. Now Mike Parisi has gone out. So 2 Lamborghinis, Lippert and AGS Events. 88, Jules Grunard's got to work his magic here. So the double Spa 24 Hours winner, won this year, of course, with Danny Junqueira and Raffaele Marchiello, but he'd been a winner in the past. He's ready to get on circuit when instructed by the Acodis ASP team, Jerome Policon's team. Although this championship has never been here, the earlier incarnation, the FIA GT Championship, did race here in the late 90s, and Jules' father, Jean-Marc, and indeed team principal Jerome Policon, 2 of the people that raced in those FIA GT days.
So before you know it, a minute and a half of the session is gone, and there's only 8 cars out on track. So clearly many of them are going to hang back in the belief that mid-session, when this early group of cars might make their pit stops, that's the time to go out, or when everybody's done their run and they've used the best of the rubber, go out at the very end. But it's Hobson's choice.
Yeah, you think about 15 minutes of qualifying being quite frantic, and yet you look at cars without wheels on and you think it's all so unhurried. But of course the team can quickly bang on 4 wheels, drop the car down and send the driver out on circuit. That doesn't take long at all. So there is number 46, Valentino Rossi. Yet another new venue for him in terms of car racing as he comes now down into the stadium.
So Nicholas Nielsen is the meat in that Audi sandwich. So Charles Weerts, Nielsen and Valentino Rossi. So the Ferrari slows down to find a bit of space, and Valentino likewise is going to have to slow down himself, because I don't think he wants to follow the Ferrari particularly, but at the same time he's got traffic behind him. He doesn't want them to swoop around him. So now Valentino sets it up, comes through turn 16, gets a nice, neat, tidy exit.
It was really interesting watching his onboard yesterday in the wet, wasn't it? Seeing the balance that he has, from his motorbike racing days, been put into a car on a really slippery surface. Charles Weerts then in the car that's currently the fastest goes through. Dennis Lind looking rapid in the first sector as well. We'll see whether the number 111 McLaren is able to influence the grid at all, with just now 11.5 minutes effectively of qualifying still to go.
Well, Charles Weerts has got sector 1 nailed. He's fastest so far. Valentino Rossi, well, 3/10 down in that sector. Doesn't seem an awful lot, but if you add that up over the following 2 sectors, you get the best part of a second. But now Weerts has found himself trapped. The McLaren steps aside, lets Weerts go through.
So Charles Weerts, absolute best in the first sector, but the Audi in towards turn 8 now. The inset picture is Valentino Rossi's view, by the way.
So Rossi is essentially the 3rd car in this chain of cars behind the 51 Ferrari, and of course the McLaren. So Weerts slips through relatively unscathed, finding cooperation from competitors. Personal best sector 2. Rossi likewise is half a second down in that sector compared to Weerts. So expect Weerts to set a benchmark time for this early phase, 10 minutes remaining.
So Charles Weerts up towards the end of the lap then. His father, Yves Weerts, one of the investors within WRT, as he comes then now over the timing line. Charles Weerts chasing after number 30, which is Thomas Neubauer, and Weerts' lap is a 1:38.000. That's second to Josefa Vega, but it is of course still now the average that he's topped, and it's 37.7. There is Yves Weerts with Vincent Voss to his left. Vincent with his trademark flat cap.
Seeing a fair bit of purple in the sector times amongst the top 5-6. Giacomo Altway had been purple in sector 1, so waiting to see if this is a time that will elevate the 19 as opposed to the 63, which is probably the more favorite of the Emile Frey Racing Lamborghinis, but nevertheless Giacomo Altway personal best again, sector 2.
Yeah, Altway has been a real gun for Lamborghini from the Super Trofeo, winning an Italian GT as well. What's that Audi up to? It's the Alex Arca car getting a bit confused. Mike Parisi letting the traffic go in the Lamborghini there as Dennis Lind heads up towards the timing line, number 111. Absolute best in the middle sector. This could put him top in Q3 as he breaks the beam, goes through. And Dennis Lind's lap time is fastest in Q2, 1:37.545, and that's put the car second on average.
Good run by Dennis Lind. Just a fraction off a tenth of a second slower than the time set in sector in qualifying 2 by Kelvin van der Linde, but Charles Weerts has got fastest now sector 1 and personal best sector 2, and just this last corner, turn 16, before he comes across the line to find consolidation, which is what he will be looking for, to knock Dennis Lind off that perch. Oh, super run by Charles Weerts. 1:37.3, fastest lap of the weekend to Charles Weerts.
And Thomas Neubauer has got ahead of Dennis Lind as well. Neubauer is second in Q3, and that's brought his car up to 5th on the grid, provisionally. Lucas Legere here, number 25 Audi. The less experienced of the drivers in that car, but he's 19th in Q3 right now as the car dives into the stadium once more.
So right now it's Audi, Ferrari, McLaren, Ferrari. That would be the grid, the front 2 grids, or the 2 front grid positions if we were to stop the session, but we have 8 minutes remaining. And Lucas Legere continues on. He got personal best in the first and second sectors. Currently waiting to see what time he's going to secure as Jules Gounon goes across. So 5th place for Legere, and that's the overall positions.
Yeah. Right, so Gounon then 6th in Q3, and that's brought the car up now to 8th on aggregate. As you look at number 7, so the Inception Racing McLaren, Frederick Schandorf at the wheel of it. This car's 8th in Q3, going really nicely.
Good run. We got 3 McLarens in the top 8 right now, so we don't often get the chance to say that, but Dean Mcdonald, he's gone purple in that middle sector, so also McLaren's coming to the fore as we come up to the, very wide in the middle of 15 to 16. So McLaren's doing really well. Dean Mcdonald comes across the line, and well, that's 14th, loses a bunch of time somehow or other, I suspect traffic related, And he'll be disappointed having secured fastest overall in that middle sector.
Valentino Rossi has had a lap time cancelled for track limit abuses at turn 1. He's not the only one, as Frederick Verviche looks on. So Charles Witt's the fastest at the moment in Q3. There is Stein Scotthorst, number 2 Mercedes. That's yet to do a proper lap time in this part of qualifying. 6 more minutes of which remain, and off the road has gone one of the VSR Lamborghinis there. So that, I think, is coming out of the Parabolica up towards the Spitzkehrer, and it's rejoining as best it can. So it's either 163 or 563. We'll try and deduce in a moment. But that car off the road.
So Scott Schoenhorst in the number 2 Mercedes AMG GT3, way down in that middle sector. So a lap which is not going to see, I suspect, any further improvement. Currently, that they are in 8th place, 9th place overall.
Up towards the timing line then now comes the number 2 Mercedes, looking for a lap time out of this session, and through he goes. So the car is 9th on average. What about Dean Mcdonald in the McLaren? He was really rapid yesterday, but did have an off into the gravel, and he's just gone through 11th now, that car. That's a good effort, and 5th in Q3. So Dean Mcdonald, we got excited about early on in the season with his pace. It's worth doing so again as you look at Marvin Kirchhofer now.
Yeah, Kirchhofer has done a great job for the Jota McLaren team. Team realised that the young German is a longer-term prospect, and I think they'll be very keen to hold on to his services for whatever their plans will be in 2023, apart from their other plans, which of course are in prototype racing.
I think he's bailed from this lap, hasn't he? Or he's back right out of it. He's not pitting, but he's going to try and let the traffic get away. The last thing you need if you're going for a qualifying lap is to get caught up behind the traffic, and it always comes, of course, at the end of the lap through that twisty stadium where it's not that wide and there aren't that many opportunities for a different line. Right, on board with Fuoco now, 2nd in Q3, 2nd on the grid provisionally.
So the young Italian, a fraction down in that middle sector again. You can just see having to hesitate coming into the stadium section. The wash from the Mercedes directly ahead, so it's like a Mad Panda, I think. It's a Mad Panda teasing the Ferrari. Fuoco backs out of it. He's still 4 minutes to go, so gives himself again that little bit of breathing space and track space, so no need to be too quick. Just set the car for here to get the exit that you really require. In fact, starting a flying lap, you don't want to run way wide. That's what you save for the conclusion of your lap. Now watch through turn 1. How much of the track? I think that's acceptably within track limits. So Fuoco resets and goes again.
With 3.5 minutes to go, let's stay with this lap then as he comes up through turn 2. Back on the power now.
Yes, and then the quick switch back through turn 3. The car runs very wide, and you just release the car, let the car find its own natural exit. Then into turn 4. Where is turn 4? I can't see it. Turn 5, can't see turn. It's just a long curve called 4 and 5. Then into the braking zone, a big brake, now heaviest braking of the racetrack. You can see the surface changes here, which in the dry make a small difference. But on Saturday morning, when we had that heavy rain, it was like a lake down to that part of the circuit.
A little bit of resurfacing into that hairpin. This section, part of the new element of the circuit. You go from the old onto the new, relatively new. Turn left here, and then back onto the power. Ease the car up towards turns 9 and 10.
So Fuoco will be looking for at least a green in that middle sector. And as a young single-seater race driver into GT racing, 2/10 down. Not really what Ferrari would have been looking for. They're currently second in the session, second overall with the car. So a lot is going to be asked of Fuoco in this final sector into turns 15. Let the car run out wide. And he doesn't go too mad. Others have gone further to the left, but looks neat and tidy. And can that be enough to give him consolidation for 4/10 down? Well, that'll be a disappointment. He remains second quickest in this session as we go back to Valentino Rossi.
And he is down in both sectors then as he comes up towards the timing line. He'll get 1 more lap. He might even get 2 more if he wants out of the session. Goes through. That car is currently 10th on the grid. Let's ride with him on the way up towards turn 2 now.
I like to watch Valentino's hand movements. We got a chance to see yesterday morning in very wet conditions. They're a lot less frenetic with the steering inputs, whereas in these conditions when it's drier, he seems to have to make a great deal more small and in some cases not so small adjustments, which indicates to me that maybe the way the car is set up across the 3 drivers, not specifically for Valentino Rossi. Neat and tidy through turn 6 at the far end of the circuit. That's the slowest corner here at the Hockenheim ring. Now flat out through turn 7. Oh, he's breathing it. Whoa, whoa.
Interesting, interesting.
Well, I wonder what Vincent Voss will say about that.
Yeah.
I think he's backed out of it anyway, so you can hear he's only trailing the throttle, so maybe information on the screen said, look, we're not going to improve this lap, so slow down. And you've got clear space both behind you and ahead of you, and give yourself the opportunity for one final flying lap. Clock counting down, 40 seconds to go. He will get across the line before the checkered flag comes out.
That's Dominic Baumann, who is the Pro-Am Championship leader for SPS Automotive Performance. Goes into the Parabolica. That long left up towards the Spitzkehrer. So Dominic Baumann, we know he's quick from his days of Fanatec GT or German GT racing. The Austrian driver into the hairpin now, sweeps through that tight right. Back onto the power now. So the provisional order as the flag goes out, it's Audi 32, Ferrari 71, Lamborghini 63. 3 different brands in the top 3. Mirko Bortolotti's efforts, having put the car only 12th in Q3, but keeping it 3rd on the combined times.
Yeah, and a good run also from the number 12 car collection. Luca Giotto did a very good run mid. He got a purple sector, I think sector 1. So that dragged that car up onto the second row of the grid, and I think they'll be pretty pleased with that.
So out hops Dean McDonald. Another good impressive effort for Garage 59. He's become one of the little stars of the championship this year. Great pace that he showed.
You're not referring to his stature there?
No, I'm not. No.
I know what you mean, but just we saw him stepping out, and he's not built like Raffaele Marcello.
He's diminutive.
He's on the shorter side.
Yes.
All, of course, adds to the benefits of the power-to-weight ratio, because if you're carrying less weight, whether it's mechanical weight or your own body weight, it all makes fractions of seconds of a difference.
There's Alex Arca's Audi, which was further down than I was anticipating in Q3, but we'll see where it fares in the race. Yeah. So the drivers then now ponder what's going on for the race, and certainly at Akkodis ASP there's much to consider. That's 88's worst qualifying since it was 18th at Paul Ricard a couple of years ago. Let's hear from the pole drivers with Gemma.
Congratulations, boys. That's a pole position. The car was feeling good, right?
Yeah, I mean, they all did a great job. Mechanics did a great job, and obviously our engineers also to bring us such a good car. So yeah, 3 times P1. So that's of course great. So let's try to keep it up and win this race.
Absolutely. Who's going to be starting the car?
Charles is our designated starter, so I'm happy. You know, I'm out of it. We can relax, watch from the box. Hopefully he'll keep it relaxing this time, stay out front, and then I'll jump in and then Dries will finish.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations to all of you. You can smile a bit now, Dries.
Yeah, I would like to say something because, you know, my dad is always watching, of course, and of course last week, unfortunately, we had a pass away of my grandmother, so I would like to tribute this pole position to her. So I know you're watching, so this one is for her.
Thanks, Dries. That's lovely.
Nice words from Dries Van Thorp, who is going to be part of that crew starting from pole position. It'll be Charles Wirtz, as you've heard, in the car for the start of the race. So let's just have a look at the way that the order is on the combined times. Now, this isn't the grid necessarily because there are some penalties to factor in from this weekend and previous rounds, but at least this is how the times look. And so it is Dries van Voor, Kelvin van der Linde and Charles Witz ahead of Alessio Rivera, Davide Rigon and Antonio Fuoco. Remember, Rigon and Fuoco fighting 88 Mercedes for the championship. Third on the combined times, Jack Aitken, Albert Costa and Mirko Bortolotti. From Christopher Hauser, Mathieu Drudi and Luca Giotto, who rather flew under the radar to be fourth, ahead of Christian Klein, Vincent Abril and Dennis Lind, while Christopher Mees was sixth with Patrick Niederhauser and Lucas Legeret. James Collado seventh alongside Miguel Molina and Nicholas Nielsen. Then the Silver Cup leaders, champions-elect, Jean-Baptiste Simonau, Benji Goethe, Thomas Neubauer, from Maro Engel, Lukas Stolz and Stein Schotthorst. And 10th on the combined times, still a good effort from Frederic Verviche, Nico Müller and Valentino Rossi. Of course, pole in silver, 2 Audi number 30, 8th overall. And number 88 Mercedes, 14th. Its worst qualifying since 2020. When it was only 18th at Paul Ricard. Further down, the best of the golds, 18th overall, Ralph Bohn, Alfred and Robert Renauer in the Herbert Motorsport Porsche. Pro-Am, topped by 188, Alexander West, Miguel Ramos and the very rapid Enrique Chavez. And the cars there now with a 3-hour race to look forward to this afternoon. The grid will be confirmed once all the judicials have been looked at and reviewed. What about the Gold Cup? That was number 5 Audi, the Arjun Maini car, along with Hubert Haupt, team principal, and Florian Scholzer that took pole position in that. Ahead of the Iron Dames, Rahal Frey, Sarah Bovia, Michel Gatting, who, remember, lead the Gold Cup in the championship. Further down in the times is the Pro-Am Ferrari of Stefano Costatini, Louis Machiels and Andrea Bertolini that will start provisionally 39th. And the Gold Cup, Norbert Siedler, Patrick Kroprinski, Maciej Blažič, McLaren quite a long way back, even Norbert Siedler's magic not being able to catapult that car up the order. 46th, British GT racer Alex Malikin with German GT racer Heinz Guven. Ian Loggy, British GT Championship leader, 47th with Valentin Pierberg and Dominic Baumann. Mike Parisi rounding out the times with Nico Gomar and Loris Kabiru. So qualifying done. We look forward to what should be a lively race. Let's have a look at the highlights then of the qualifying period. It began, of course, as ever, with a really busy circuit, everybody pouring out for Q1, although strangely Q2 had a rather calmer start to it. We had rapid times being offered up early from Ollie Milroy aboard number 7 McLaren. Jack Aitken looking really good in Q1, Albert Costa in the same car, quick in the second part of qualifying, but ultimately there was no stopping the number 32 Audi that was just on song right the way through. Nikolai Schiergaard and Dean McDonald very, very good indeed in the number 159 McLaren, and Dennis Lind in 111 McLaren for the JP Motorsport team. As ever, as expected, a real star within Q3. So we've had this drama up at the top of the hairpin in Q1. That was Emi Chiva being turned around by Maciej Blažič. That's going to be reviewed at the end of the session. 71 Ferrari, out-qualifying its championship rival, the number 88 Mercedes, so that is back in the hunt as far as points are concerned. And it's all building up for a really good race this afternoon with this car, number 32 Audi, starting on pole position. And so we look forward to the race to come later. For now, though, from Gemma Scott, John Watson and David Anderson, it's goodbye.